I'm Jen Hill, and I'm a student at Mary Washington. I'm also a DKC tutor, a Digital Knowledge Center tutor at UW. And I just want to start out by saying there's a war happening in our cyber world, and we're all here for it, I guess, whether you're for it or against it. But if you're a Facebook user, you might have had your information taken by Cambridge Analytica without your consent. If you're an Instagram user, you're using a platform that is full of child pornography and child abuse. And if you're on Twitter, you may be interacting with bots and you don't even know it. So that's our current digital landscape, and that's broken. And we are not only users of those platforms, but we are technologists. So we are the people who understand and can analyze it and ask the questions that other people don't really have the opportunity or privilege to ask. So it's really up to us to kind of start this war and to stop relying on a broken social media environment for our entertainment and for our identity and for information, and to start reinvesting in our own personal websites. So today I want to start off by looking further into our current digital landscape and also moving on to ways that you can weaponize your website as a form of protest. So we are being used by social media companies. I like to say it's like a bad boyfriend, you know? Always getting used. Don't even get to keep a shirt in the end, you just kind of always get screwed over. But to them, we're just a mindless producer and consumer. We produce data, we produce content that they use, and then we consume ads that are based off of that data that we provided them, without our consent, of course. And you know, these other atrocities that they're doing, Facebook removing 2.19 billion fake accounts. Yeah, good for them, great. But it didn't reveal that there's actually more active fake accounts now than there were 6 months ago. And Twitter, they decided to leave up certain death threats. They've done this multiple times because they consider it newsworthy. Is it newsworthy for someone to threaten your life? I guess in the eyes of Twitter it is. And on Instagram, until very recently, they were promoting anti-vax content on their Explore page and on their hashtag pages. And Amazon Ring, just a few days ago, this is my favorite one that they just started doing, they've started using people's Amazon Ring footage as content for their advertisements on Facebook, and they're calling them crime alerts. And also, have you guys heard about rings being subsidized by police departments, and they're giving them to houses? Isn't that crazy? Crazy what they'll do for, like, just to get your attention, just to get you to have that technology. So these events and these other technologies are pointing to a broken system, a system that is using us, abusing us, and opening us up to a lot of fake news and other maltreatment. So what I'm trying to say is that they don't care for you. They aren't looking out for you. They're using you. And they're using you for money. And so they're ignoring our rights to digital privacy, security, justice. And when we continue to let them do these things, we're allowing their toxicity to continue and for them to continue to abuse us. So in short, without action, we're just opening ourselves up to a world war of hurt. And together we need to push back against them and to reinvest, like I was saying before, our time and energy into our personal websites. So I personally think that with the rise of Facebook came the kind of death of personal websites. I also think with MySpace's death, with like the ability to do HTML and CSS on your site, I think people have kind of farmed out our desire to post online to social media. You know, when I want to get my identity out there, I go to Facebook, I go to Instagram, I go to Twitter. I'm no longer going to my website, and if I'm going to my website, it's not my main focus anymore. And we're reliant on them, and this puts us in a helpless position where we're a victim to their abuses. We're dependent on them to provide us with this entertainment, to provide us with the platform for our digital identity. So it's time for us to take back responsibility for those actions. And you're probably all sitting there and you're like, this girl wants me to delete Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I got a following, I got a brand. No, that's not what I'm saying. You have two selves. You have a career self, who I'm pretty sure all of us have to use Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for work, or Medium, or whatever other platform in the world you want to use. And then you have your personal self that knows the things that they're doing. And what I'm speaking to right now is your personal self. You know, I understand you gotta make money, you gotta make that dime, I got it. But these things are happening, and we need to act, and we need to kind of get that support together. So becoming less reliant, how do you do that? Use your website as the place to host your voice. That should be the place where it's a privilege to have your voice places. Put it on your website, because then it's your own. And when you use your voice and you put it on your website, you're imbuing yourself into your website in a way that you can't do on Facebook. Facebook is so sterile and so clean because they want that money. They want advertisers to put their ads on there. They want it to be safe for them and consistent. That's not how we are. We're messy. We're humans. We like to be creative. We like to change it up, and we need to have that space for change. Also, when you unabashedly use your website as a place to express yourself, you are filling it with the self-expression of yourself. You have like all your favorite colors, your images, everything about yourself. And everything is made by and for you as well. And you also become the master, once again, of your own data, your own privacy, and your own security. You're taking your content, your ideas into your hands again. So I want to show you guys a little example site of what I think a personal website, a great example of a personal website is. This may look familiar. So this is called Jason's website. It was made by Jason Kubler in 2002. Yes, 2 years before Facebook. He did it first. Ignore the hot or not quiz. He made this when he was 13. We were all 13 once, I believe. Unless you somehow Benjamin Buttoned, I respect it. But you know, it has a friends list, it has an about me, there's even games, and you know, it looks a little old-fashioned, right? This was made a few years ago, but I think that it still holds merit. I think that there's still elements on here that show us that we don't need to rely on Facebook. We don't need to rely on Instagram. Yes, it's going to feel weird to go to websites again, because we're selfish. We like this one-stop shop with Facebook. They provide everything for you now. News, videos, images, your family, your friends. They're going to start doing dating apps. They're going to start doing everything. It's a monopoly, is what it is. So I personally think that this website is a great example of something that you can do on your own. And I acknowledge hand coding is hard. Doing your own site from scratch is hard. I'm not saying go out there and like learn all the code and be like, oh, I'm gonna stay up all night and make my site the most beautiful thing. Yes, you can do that if you want, but doing a site on WordPress or another content management system is also, I think, good. You're still participating in the fight. You're not investing wholeheartedly into social media. You're still saying like, my attention online also goes to me and my own space that I control, my own domain of one's own. So I think that the struggle for these digital rights will continue well into the future, and it's up to us to kind of determine what that future will be. Because if we act now, or if we don't act now, that really determines what the kind of things in the future will look like. So in the future, if we don't act, I see us going to one site for everything, like I was saying. Facebook will have everything, or someone will have everything. And you know, you won't have a say over what's happening on there. Our digital rights to privacy security, they'll continue to keep ripping things from us and continue to use us. And that looks bleak and constrictive and impersonal to me. That's not the future I want. I don't want to go to a website that looks sterile, like a dental office, and get my memes there. That's depressing. But consider the opposite. Consider the inverse of that. A digital world in which everyone has their own website or has an opportunity to have a website that they can shape for themselves, their hobbies, school, work, everything. It reflects their personal aesthetic, their beliefs, their ideas. It's theirs. That is when the user is no longer a user, but the content creator and manager of their own self. And so they are in charge, not the guys in Silicon Valley. They are in charge. We are in charge. And that is the difference, the change of power. So I would like to say that it's time to write your declaration of war against Silicon Valley and weaponize your website. Clearly, like, not an amazing website is built in a day. Rome was not built in a day. But you have to start somewhere. And how do you start? Just looking at your websites again. I will admit, I am the worst at like forgetting my website and like neglecting it, and then coming back to it and being like, oh no, everything's broken. And that's because I didn't update it for like a while, or I just like ignored it. And it just starts off small by revisiting those websites and kind of rekindling that love you kind of have for those. They are a labor of love. I think more so everyone in this room understands that a website is blood, sweat, and tears. It's not magic. And it really is like it's a journey. It's a time. So just trying to update your website, or if you don't have one, or creating a new space for yourself is important. And then finding your voice, finding what you want to put on your website. What are the things you want to say? And this would be the perfect place to say social media sucks too, because if you post it on Facebook, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? And they could also take it down or come back, like come after you. So finding your voice and experimenting with it and kind of exploring these topics that you want to talk about. And taking pride in your website. Like I was saying before, it's a labor of love. It's something that you've worked on for a good few days, or it's never done, really. And it's something that you control. It's your creation. That sounds very Frankenstein-y. But it's what you made. It's your masterpiece, I guess you could say. And I think that if you take more pride in the work that you do on your own website, you'll be reluctant to give up your control over the aesthetic, the appearance, the control over your privacy, your data. By having that pride, I think you'll find that social media really does abuse it. So, like I was saying in the beginning, there is a war at hand in our digital world, and it really is what we do now determines the rights that we have in the future. And it really is fighting against like apathetic CEOs, data breaches, just the desire for monetization. And in order to fight back, we need to look back at our personal websites, and we need to make these a haven from these greedy companies who are just trying to use us for money. And by making these personal websites the location of our discourse as well, where we put our attention, where we invest our time, we're saying, we don't need you, we can do better than you. And in fact, that's like basically market forces, the idea. But it's just not feeding into that corrupt system, not feeding into the things that they do to us. And without action, they'll continue to do these things. They'll continue to use us. But it's up to us to act together and to go back to this personal website, even though it may be hard and kind of weird at first. But hopefully we'll be able to create a future in which it's all online and all our own, and everything we have is something that we can control. So that is my presentation, everybody. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Jonathan?
So, how receptive are people to this message? You work with the I forget the acronym, the
DKC, yeah.
DKC,
yes.
And you work with people, your peers, and you tutor them and you help them, and I'm sure you talk about these kind of things with them.
Yes.
Do people? I mean, I'm super old. I'm not addicted to Facebook.
I'm not either.
People. I understand.
I get what you're saying though, and if you ask Katie, I sound like the crazy tinfoil hat person in my digital studies classes. I sound insane, and I think it's because I am so devoted to reading this news, reading what they're doing, because I think they're so quick to put it underneath the rug and just sweep it away, and just for us to ignore it so that we continue to use these platforms. But I think that what comes with it is what Chris was saying in his discussion, like looking under the hood. I think we do need to encourage students to look under the hood more. And when I do these presentations on digital identity in the beginning of the year for freshmen, I often ask them, what do you think Facebook is for? And the first answer I usually get is connecting with friends. And I'm like, yes, it may have the appearance of that, but why do they ask you about your birthday? Why do they ask you to list your family members? Why do they ask you the location that you were born in? What is the use of this data? And it's just, I ask them these questions, and eventually they realize, yeah, I am being used. If you're not paying for something, you really are the product, or the whatever I'm saying it. So I do think that with some of it is like encouraging critical analysis of online literacy and like online tools younger for children, especially with like fake news and things like that. And I think when we start doing that younger, hopefully we'll have kind of a even bigger sweep of digital literacy coming through. Because I think right now it's still very based in privilege. I am privileged to be able to work with a computer. I had typing classes as a kid. My parents had computers. It's not like that for everybody. And I think until we address that, we're going to have to continue to like support these opportunities and support education. Yeah.
So my perspective is as an educator and an entrepreneur. I lead a consulting company, and we've never had a strategy to be on Facebook for every reason that we've seen validated this week. But we are on LinkedIn and Twitter. And
yeah.
Our website 2 years ago was terrible. It was exactly like you would expect some dumb consulting company to have. And we stopped everything and we asked ourselves, if we really wanted to showcase the voices of the communities we serve, what would that look like? And we ended up finding the Enterprise Institute has this protocol and this research base around story catching. And so how do you build into your workflow the opportunity to pause and reflect and write with others? And it became not only something that populated our website with something so much more powerful than we could ever do, it gave us the opportunity to pause and reflect and make meaning with others. And it's changed everything we've done. And And we're 2 years into it, and it's become such a natural part of what we do. It doesn't even make sense to do that in a social media platform because it's so fast and it's so, it disappears.
Yeah, it's ethereal. Like, just go on
Yeah.
instant. Yeah.
And from a business point of view, this is the best financial decision we made.
Yeah.
So you can have your cake and eat it too. People want to see themselves in a partnership that they have with you, and if you can build that in a way that's authentic.
I do have to say, the authenticity is what really does make it. Because you can churn out all this content. I can make you 50,000 Canva graphics for your social media page easily. That's what I do all day.
Yeah.
But it's the authenticity, it's the voice, it's the character, the story of it that I think people connect to more so, and we've forgotten about that. Because I do think our attention span is shortened. I think we can get it back. Anything is possible. So I would agree with you on that.
Any other questions? We have time for maybe one or two more.
Yes.
I'm curious about, I know you talked a lot about a website as a place for like creativity and self-expression, and I personally love that aspect of it, and I feel like a lot of people in this room probably do, but I'm wondering about people who kind of like, they use social media because, you know, they just want to quickly post all their photos and share them, and maybe they want to participate in groups and things like that, but they don't have a lot of interest in that creativity and self-expression aspect of it, and what you might recommend to someone like that.
Yeah, I think that everyone has something they can post on a website. I genuinely do. And I don't think websites, in terms of creation, like content and things like that, doesn't have to be like paintings and artistry. I think it can just literally be, I think if you like Twitter, make yourself a blog in which you just post your 2 sentence thoughts. What is the difference? Quite literally. Like, there's really not too much in my mind for that, and I think just finding the spaces that fit your needs and kind of testing with that, and like even like traditional blogs, like just even all words, all text is fine. And I think with these websites, with the idea of websites comes with the idea of allowing people to have multiple identities that they can throw on and off like hats. I am very much like in DS-106 and digital storytelling, if you guys are familiar with that program, you're often creating a persona and you're speaking through that persona. And I think that like if you're worried about like privacy and security or like your name, I think creating those spaces in which you're anonymous too will help. But in terms of creativity, I don't know, it kind of really depends on what people are interested in and how they can express themselves, and or if you how much devotion you want to create to like a replacement for yourself as well. But yes, tricky one.
I just was going to say, it's really important to do it for yourself, I think.
Yeah.
That's something to remember. Don't do it for clicks, and that's why Facebook exists sometimes.
Exactly, yeah.
Get those numbers.
Well, thank you, Jen.